Beyond the Gates spoilers tease that the Dupree family begins to unravel when Chelsea vanishes into silence that feels too unnatural to ignore. It is Anita who first senses the change. Chelsea is not the type of young woman who disappears without leaving a trace. Even when she was rebellious or moody, she always checked in. That sudden break in contact is like a stone thrown into the still surface of Anita's mind, sending ripples of unease across every thought. At first, Anita tells herself it might be nothing. Maybe Chelsea's phone ran out of battery, maybe she fell asleep somewhere, maybe she wanted some space. But when hours bleed into a whole night without word, the unease curdles into terror. The air inside the Dupree house grows tense. Clocks seem louder, every tick another reminder of Chelsea's absence. Anita can barely stand still, pacing the hallway, waiting for a message, a call, anything. Then the phone does buzz, the vibration sharp as thunder in the silence. For a moment her lungs fill with hope, but the relief is crushed almost instantly when she reads the words on the screen. It is Chelsea's number, yes, but the words are poison. The message is cold, sharp, and cruel. It makes no attempt to disguise the menace hidden inside. She's alive, it taunts. But whether she stays that way depends on you. Anita's hands shake so violently that she nearly drops the phone. Her daughter is alive, but in the hands of someone who treats life like a bargaining chip. What the captor wants is unclear, but the intent is unmistakable: control, dominance, power over the Duprees. The family gathers, their fears spilling into arguments. They cannot agree on the next step. Should they call the police? Should they wait for clearer instructions? Every option feels like a trap. As they argue, suspicion creeps into their conversations, whispering the same name, Allison. Allison has long been a figure of unease. She was once close to Chelsea, almost too close. What began as friendship warped into obsession. Chelsea tried to pull away, but Allison clung tighter, her words shifting from affectionate to threatening. There had been warnings, late-night messages that sounded like ownership, confrontations that ended with Allison declaring Chelsea could never escape her. Anita remembers each of those moments with a clarity sharpened by fear. Could Allison have finally crossed the line into violence? While the Duprees speculate, Chelsea wakes to a nightmare. Her eyes flutter open, but instead of familiar surroundings, she finds herself in a room stripped of warmth or identity. The walls are bare, the light dim, flickering as if the bulb is dying. A chill runs through her when she tries to move and feels the bite of steel on her wrist. One of her arms has been chained to a bed frame. The realization slams into her like ice water: she is a prisoner. Across the room, her phone rests on a table. Its cracked screen glimmers faintly in the low light. For a moment, hope flares. If she can just reach it, she can call for help. Chelsea pushes her body, straining against the restraint. Her left hand trembles as she stretches, inch by inch. Her fingertips graze the edge of the table. She holds her breath, praying she can make contact. Just as she is about to grip the phone, another hand swoops in, larger, veined, decisive. Chelsea jerks back with a gasp, her chest tightening. Standing before her is a figure draped in black, face hidden behind a mask that reflects the dim light like polished stone. The mask is expressionless, but its presence is suffocating. The captor slips the phone casually into his pocket, a silent declaration that Chelsea's voice no longer belongs to her. Fear explodes inside her, and she screams. The sound tears at her throat, raw and desperate, but the walls swallow it whole. No one comes. The masked figure watches calmly, as if her panic is a performance staged for his amusement. When he finally speaks, his voice is low, deliberate. He warns her that any attempt to escape will be punished. If she struggles, if she screams, if she resists, the consequences will be unbearable. Chelsea, trembling, clings to the only defense she has left, her family. She spits defiance, telling him that her parents will hunt him down, that he will never escape their wrath if he harms her. For a moment she feels strong, but the illusion shatters when the captor presses a knife against her throat. The cold steel kisses her skin, and her voice dies in her chest. He tells her that threats mean nothing to him, that fear is the only language he respects. Then, with chilling composure, He uses Chelsea's own phone to type out messages to her family. She can do nothing but watch as her identity is stolen, her words twisted into weapons against those she loves. Back at the Dupree household, Anita stares at her screen, her mind racing. The message looks like it came from Chelsea, but the tone is off. Chelsea would never write with such detachment. Anita senses the deceit immediately, but the fact that the messages come from Chelsea's phone makes it impossible to dismiss. It is as if the kidnapper is inside their walls, whispering directly into their ears. The theory that Allison is behind it strengthens. Everyone remembers her obsession, the way she once threatened to make Chelsea understand if she wouldn't listen. Chelsea had been frightened of Allison before, and now that fear feels like a prophecy. Still, something about the messages feels too calculated, too methodical. Allison was obsessive, but was she this controlled, this precise? Meanwhile, Chelsea endures a torment designed not just to restrain her body but to break her spirit. The captor sits for hours without speaking, just watching. Sometimes he asks her questions that sound like riddles. What is freedom to you? What would you trade to see daylight? The questions unnerve her more than threats, because they hint at a purpose she cannot understand. Time blurs. Chelsea cannot tell if days or only hours have passed. The single bulb flickers in and out, plunging her into intervals of darkness where she imagines the mask staring at her from inches away. Sleep offers no refuge. Her dreams collapse into fragments of escape that dissolve into reality when she wakes, still chained, still trapped. Anita, meanwhile, studies every message, searching for hidden meaning. She writes them down, analyzing word by word. Some phrases sound almost like Chelsea, others are alien. Is Chelsea trying to sneak a signal through, or is it all the captor's trick? The uncertainty gnaws at her, draining her strength. The Duprees fracture under the weight of their fear. Some insist on going to the police immediately, others argue it will doom Chelsea. Anita becomes the reluctant leader, the one who must decide, every choice heavy with the possibility of destroying her daughter. She can feel the kidnapper tightening his grip, using time itself as a weapon. Chelsea's strength begins to falter, but she clings to hope. She remembers Allison's face, the threats, the way she once said, "I'll never let you go." That memory coils through her like poison, because now it feels real. She wonders if Allison is behind the mask, if betrayal came from someone who once called herself a friend. The thought devastates her, but it also fuels her defiance. The captor escalates, reminding her of the knife, pressing it against her skin whenever she resists. Noting small details, a trace of perfume, the hint of nail polish under a glove. These inconsistencies gnaw at her. If this is Allison, why the disguise? And if it isn't, then who hides behind the mask? The Duprees wait, caught in a web of dread. Each passing moment feels like a countdown, though they do not know to what. Anita fears the worst but forces herself to stay strong. She knows Chelsea is alive. She feels it, a tether between them that even terror cannot cut. And so the nightmare deepens. Chelsea trapped in a room where time is meaningless, Anita torn between action and obedience, the Dupree family unraveling under suspicion and fear, and the masked captor advancing his game step by step. The opening act of the torment is complete, but the true horror has only just begun. The Dupree house grows heavier with every passing hour, as though the walls themselves absorb the anxiety pressing against them. Anita has not slept, her eyes fixed on the phone in her hand as if it were the only lifeline left. The messages keep coming, some short and taunting, others long and unsettlingly poetic. Each one feeds the family's despair, forcing them to imagine Chelsea in situations more terrifying than the last. Yet the captor still avoids explaining his true purpose. No ransom request, no clear demand, just riddles and rules designed to tighten the noose around their minds. Anita knows she is being tested. The messages order her to keep the family silent, to avoid the police, to follow instructions with perfect obedience. She tries to comply at first, terrified of what disobedience might cost Chelsea. But doubt creeps in with every new command. The more she obeys, the stronger the captor becomes, as though her submission feeds his control. She begins to realize that silence may be as deadly as defiance. Chelsea, meanwhile, has learned to measure time through the captor's movements. He enters and leaves with no pattern she can understand, sometimes staying for hours in complete silence, sometimes vanishing long enough for her to wonder if he has abandoned her. Every time he returns, he brings a different mood, sometimes calm, almost conversational, asking her questions about her childhood, her fears, her dreams. Other times, he is cruel, pressing the knife against her skin or holding her jaw until her eyes water. It is a cycle of confusion and terror, designed to weaken her resolve. She keeps noticing details that betray the captor's disguise. Once, when he leaned close, she caught the faint scent of perfume that reminded her of Allison. Another time, she saw a chipped streak of dark polish beneath the glove. Each clue twists her thoughts into knots. If this truly is Allison, then the betrayal is worse than she imagined. If it isn't, then Allison is still somehow involved, her shadow looming over every moment of her captivity. Anita cannot shake Allison from her mind either. The family revisits every story Chelsea ever told about her. The late-night phone calls, the threats whispered at school, the way Allison once told Chelsea that losing her would be a fate worse than death. Those words, once dismissed as obsessive exaggeration, now echo with sinister weight. Anita wonders if Allison has finally made good on her threats, or if she has been manipulated herself into something darker. The breaking point arrives with a video. Anita opens the message with shaking hands, and Chelsea's face appears on the screen. Her eyes are swollen from crying, her lips cracked, but she is alive. A gag muffles her words, but her terror speaks louder than any sentence. The camera lingers on her bound wrist, the shackle biting into her skin. Then the captor's voice, distorted and mechanical, fills the room. He declares that Chelsea's survival depends on obedience. No more hesitation, no more questions. Obey, or lose her forever. Anita collapses into a chair, clutching the phone to her chest. The sound of her daughter's muffled cries pierces her soul. She feels rage and helplessness fuse together, boiling inside her. This is no longer about fear of provoking the captor, it is about refusing to let him dictate the end of her daughter's life. Chelsea begins to resist in subtle ways. She tests the chain each night, mapping the weak points of the bed frame. She pretends to submit, answering his questions softly, lowering her eyes to avoid punishment. But inside, she is studying, waiting, conserving energy. She knows escape may cost her dearly, but it is the only chance she has if her family cannot reach her in time. The family finally breaks their silence. Anita calls in help, secretly, against the captor's instructions. Investigators warn her that the messages are crafted to instill paralysis, to keep the Duprees passive. They encourage her to stay strong, to recognize that the captor feeds on fear. Still, Anita cannot shake the sense that he knows too much about them. Details no stranger should ever know. It suggests that whoever wears the mask has been close enough to observe them for years. As police trace signals, Chelsea discovers more about her captor. In one of his volatile rants, his calm voice cracks into something raw. Chelsea hears a tone she almost recognizes, not Allison but someone connected to her. Someone who might have manipulated her obsession. The revelation makes her shiver. Allison may not be the sole villain but a pawn in a much larger, more calculated scheme. Anita receives another message, one that shifts the rules yet again. The captor demands a confession, an old family secret long buried. Anita feels the walls close in. How could he know anything about their past? The demand proves this is no random kidnapping. Chelsea was chosen, and the family was targeted for reasons deeper than anyone realized. The thought terrifies Anita more than the knife ever could. Chelsea, sensing the end game, summons the last of her strength. She times the captor's movements, memorizes the creak of the floorboards. When he grows distracted ranting about control, about ownership, she pulls violently against the bed frame. The wood splinters, the shackle loosens. Her wrist bleeds, but freedom is within reach. At the same time, investigators finally pinpoint the signal from Chelsea's phone. Anita and her family rush to the site, a derelict building on the outskirts of town. The sight of it chills her. It looks like a mausoleum, a place meant for endings. She steels herself, determined that this will not be her daughter's grave. Inside, The confrontation erupts. The masked captor stands over Chelsea, knife raised, as the Duprees burst into the room behind armed officers. The standoff stretches into eternity, the air thick with tension. The captor taunts them, his distorted voice echoing against the walls. He admits to manipulating Allison, feeding her obsession, using her fixation as cover for his own scheme. He calls the family weak, predictable, easy to break. Chelsea acts. With the last surge of strength, she tears free from the weakened bed frame, lunging forward just enough to throw him off balance. The knife wavers. Officers seize the chance, tackling him to the ground. The mask is ripped away, revealing not a stranger but a face the Duprees recognize from their past. A man once close enough to learn their secrets, long forgotten until now. His identity is less important than what it represents: betrayal born from proximity, proof that evil often hides where trust once lived. Chelsea collapses into Anita's arms, her body trembling but alive. Relief crashes over the family like a wave, but it is not pure. Beneath it lies anger, grief, and the heavy realization that survival does not erase scars. Chelsea will carry the memories of the mask, the chain, the knife pressed to her throat. Anita will carry the guilt of every moment she doubted, every message she obeyed. The Duprees will never forget how close they came to shattering. Yet there is resilience too. Chelsea, though shaken, does not allow herself to remain voiceless. She insists on telling her story, reclaiming the words that were stolen from her. Anita promises that silence will never again be their prison. Secrets will be faced, wounds acknowledged, truth spoken aloud. In the days that follow, the Dupree home feels different. The air is lighter, though shadows still linger. Chelsea stands at her window one evening, gazing out at the horizon. The world feels vast, dangerous, but also hers again. She knows fear will always whisper at the edges of her memory, but she also knows she has survived something designed to destroy her. The gates are still there, looming symbols of boundaries and confinement. But Chelsea no longer sees them as barriers. She sees them as thresholds. Beyond them lies not just the darkness of what she endured, but the possibility of life reclaimed. She takes a breath, steady and strong, ready to step beyond, not as a victim but as someone who endured, resisted, and returned. The weeks after the rescue pass in a blur. The Dupree home becomes a place of restless energy. Reporters staking out the driveway, neighbors whispering their theories, investigators combing through every trace of evidence left behind. Chelsea cannot step outside without feeling eyes on her, judging, pitying, wondering. She hates the way their looks turn her into an object, a reminder of something horrifying. Survival should have felt like freedom, but sometimes it feels like another cage. Anita watches her daughter carefully, trying to give space but always nearby. She notices the smallest shifts, Chelsea's hands trembling when she holds a glass, her flinching at sudden noises, the way she avoids mirrors for fear of seeing her fear reflected back. Anita tells herself these wounds are normal, that time will heal them, but deep down she knows healing will not come by itself. It will take choices, hard ones. The face of the captor lingers in everyone's memory. His unmasking shocked them not because he was a stranger, but because he was a name they once trusted, a forgotten acquaintance from years back whose bitterness festered into obsession. He claimed the family carried a debt, that Chelsea's suffering was part of a punishment no one else understood. His rambling during interrogations unsettles even the detective. Self-delusion, half-truth, a web of obsession and control. And woven through it all is Allison's name, a reminder that she was not just a side note but an accomplice, manipulated and complicit in ways still unclear. The trial looms on the horizon, promising confrontation. Chelsea dreads it, but Anita insists it will be her chance to speak, to reclaim her voice in the place where he tried to take it away. They both know testifying will not be easy. The captor will stare at her again, maybe even smile, reminding her of every night spent in chains. But silence would mean letting him finish what he started, keeping her story locked away. In the meantime, Chelsea begins therapy, though at first she resists. She sits in silence during sessions, arms folded, as though speaking the memories aloud might give them power again. But over time, words come. She talks about the mask, about the scent of perfume that tricked her into believing Allison was behind it all. She talks about the knife at her throat, the messages that taunted her family. And slowly, she learns that speaking does not make the fear grow, it lessens it, piece by piece. Anita, too, carries scars. She replays every decision in her mind, the hours she waited before calling for help, the obedience she gave to the captor's threats. The guilt gnaws at her, a wound she cannot bandage. But when Chelsea takes her hand one evening and whispers, "You saved me," Anita realizes that guilt cannot rewrite the past, only cloud the present. What matters now is the life they still share. As the trial approaches, Allison's role becomes clearer. She was not the mastermind but the enabler, her obsession weaponized by someone darker. Still, Chelsea cannot forgive her. Obsession is not an excuse for cruelty. Allison's testimony reveals the depth of her control over Chelsea, her threats, her manipulations, her twisted declarations of love. Hearing it aloud makes Chelsea tremble with rage, but also with clarity. Allison was never the one with true power. She was a vessel for someone else's violence. Recognizing that does not excuse her, but it finally removes her shadow from Chelsea's nights. The final confrontation comes not with knives or masks but with words. Chelsea takes the stand. Her voice shakes at first, the courtroom pressing down on her, the captor's eyes fixed on her with the same coldness that once haunted the dark room. But then she speaks not as a victim bound to a bed, but as someone who lived, who resisted, who refused to break. She describes every moment, every scar, every manipulation. She strips the captor of his control by telling the story he wanted to keep hidden. And when she finishes, the silence in the courtroom feels like a victory. The verdict comes swiftly. The captor is sentenced. Allison is too. Justice does not erase the past, but it draws a line in the sand, this far, no further. The gates of fear and silence close behind them. Months later, Chelsea walks alone down a quiet path outside town. The air is crisp, the sky wide and endless. For the first time in a long while, she breathes without feeling chains at her wrist. The world still holds shadows, memories waiting to resurface, scars waiting to achieve. It also holds light. She knows she cannot erase what happened, but she can choose what comes next. She pauses at a literal gate at the end of the path. Beyond it stretches open fields, wild and untamed. She touches the wood, feeling its roughness beneath her fingers. This gate does not confine her. It marks a threshold. With a steady breath, Chelsea pushes it open and steps through, not into captivity, but into a life reclaimed on her own terms. The story does not end with drama, nor with justice alone. It ends with a choice, to step beyond fear, beyond silence, beyond the shadows of those who tried to control her. And in that choice, Chelsea finds the ending her captor never wanted her to have, an ending where she is not his victim but her own survivor, her own beginning.